Have you ever wondered how far you'd go to protect your family's legacy? What if your actions threatened to destroy the very thing you were trying to preserve? This is a story of love, power, and redemption that will make you question everything you thought you knew about family, tradition, and the true meaning of inheritance. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here I am. Charles Worthington III, once the pinnacle of New York's elite, now humbled by my own arrogance and short-sightedness. It's time I confess to the world how I nearly destroyed my daughter's life in my misguided attempt to protect our family's legacy. It all began on a crisp autumn evening at the annual Worthington Charity Gala. The event was in full swing, crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over the sea of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. I stood at the center of it all, basking in the pride of another successful year. The Worthington name was synonymous with old money, influence, and impeccable taste. We were the gatekeepers of high society, and I was determined to keep it that way. My daughter, Anna, had always been the jewel of our family, brilliant, beautiful, and poised to take over the family's legal empire. That night, she walked in fashionably late, turning heads as always. But something was different. Her smile was brighter, her eyes sparkling with a joy I hadn't seen in years. And then I saw why. Beside her stood a young man I'd never seen before. Tall, undeniably handsome, with skin the color of rich mahogany and an easy smile that seemed to light up the room. I watched, my champagne flute frozen halfway to my lips, as Anna introduced him around. Jamal, she called him, an artist of all things. I could feel the whispers starting already, the sideways glances, the raised eyebrows. In our world, appearances were everything, and this was not the appearance we needed. Charles, my wife, Elizabeth, murmured beside me, her fingers digging into my arm. Do something? I plastered on my most charming smile and made my way through the crowd. Anna, darling, I said, kissing her cheek, won't you introduce me to your friend? The way her face lit up when she looked at him made my stomach churn. Dad, this is Jamal. Jamal, my father, Charles Worthington. Jamal extended his hand, his grip firm and confident. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Worthington. Anna's told me so much about you. I'm sure she has. I thought bitterly. Charmed, I replied, my tone cooler than I intended. And what is it you do, Jamal? I'm an artist, he said, his pride evident. I have a show opening next month at the Thompson Gallery. I raised an eyebrow. How quaint. If you'll excuse us, I need to borrow my daughter for a moment. I led Anna away, my mind racing. This couldn't be happening. Not to us. Not to her. What do you think you're doing? I hissed once we were out of earshot. Anna's eyes flashed with defiance. I'm living my life, Dad. Jamal is incredible. If you'd just give him a chance, Dash. A chance. I scoffed. Anna, look around you. This is your world. Your birthright. And you're willing to throw it all away for some starving artist. He's not just some artist, she snapped. He's talented, kind, and he loves me for who I am, not for our last name. I could feel the situation slipping out of my control. Love, you can't be serious. What about your career? The firm? Everything we've built. I can have both, Dad. My career and Jamal. Why can't you see that? I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. Anna, listen to me. You have a responsibility to this family, to our legacy. I won't stand by and watch you throw it all away on a whim. It's not a whim, she said, her voice low and dangerous. And you don't get to decide my life for me. She turned on her heel and walked away, leaving me standing there, seething. This was far from over. Over the next few months, I tried everything to break them apart. I buried Anna in work at the firm, hoping to leave her no time for her little romance. I set her up with the sons of other prominent families, ignoring her increasingly vocal objections. I even tried to bribe Jamal, offering him a sizable grant to study art abroad. He refused, of course, which only infuriated me more. Nothing worked. If anything, my interference only seemed to bring them closer together. I watched helplessly as Anna's priorities shifted. She started leaving the office earlier, turning down high-profile cases to attend Jamal's art shows. She was slipping away, and I was desperate to hold on. It all came to a head one rainy night in April. Anna had come to the house for our weekly family dinner, and I could tell something was different. She was nervous, fidgeting with her napkin, barely touching her food. "Anna, dear," Elizabeth said, concern evident in her voice. "Is everything all right?" Anna took a deep breath and reached for her purse. "Actually, I have some news." She pulled out a small velvet box and opened it, revealing a modest but beautiful diamond ring. Jamal proposed, and I said yes. The silence that followed was deafening. I stared at the ring, my vision blurring red. All my carefully laid plans, all my hopes for a future, crumbling before my eyes. "Absolutely not," I said, my voice low and dangerous. Anna's face hardened. "I wasn't asking for permission, Dad. I'm telling you what's happening." I slammed my fist on the table, making the china rattle. "I forbid it. Do you hear me? I will not allow my daughter to throw away her future on some what, Dad?" Anna challenged, rising to her feet. "Some talented, kind man who loves me? Or were you going to say something else?" "Don't you dare try to paint me as the villain here," I snarled. "I'm trying to protect you, to protect everything our family has built." "No," Anna said, her voice shaking with anger. "You're trying to control me, to force me into the little box you created for your perfect heiress. Well, I'm done. I'm marrying Jamal, with or without your blessing." I saw red. The words spilled out before I could stop them. "If you walk out that door, you're cut off. No more trust fund, no more position at the firm. You'll be on your own." Anna's face went pale, but her resolve didn't waver. "If that's how it has to be," she said quietly. She turned to leave, pausing at the door. "I love you, Dad. I just wish that was enough for you." The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving me alone with the ruins of my family. The weeks that followed were a blur. I threw myself into work, trying to ignore the gaping hole Anna's absence had left in our lives. Elizabeth barely spoke to me, spending her days in silent reproach. I told myself I'd done the right thing, that Anna would come to her senses eventually, but deep down, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. Then came the call that changed everything. It was past midnight when the phone rang. I fumbled for it, my heart racing as I recognized the number of the hospital where Anna worked. "Mr. Worthington," a grave voice said, "there's been an accident. Your daughter." The world stopped spinning. I don't remember the drive to the hospital, only the sickening fear that gripped me. When I arrived, they told me Anna had been in a car crash. She was in surgery, her condition critical. I collapsed into a chair in the waiting room, my head in my hands. What had I done? My beautiful, brilliant daughter was fighting for her life, and the last words I'd said to her were threats and ultimatums. I'd let my pride and my fear destroy the most precious thing in my life. Hours passed like years. Finally, a doctor emerged, looking exhausted but cautiously optimistic. "She's stable," he said, "but the next 24 hours will be critical." As I stood there, looking at my daughter's pale face amid a tangle of tubes and wires, I felt something inside me break. All the walls I'd built, all the justifications I'd made, came crumbling down. None of it mattered. Not the family name, not the legacy, not the firm. All that mattered was that my little girl lived. I don't know how long I sat there, holding her hand, before I heard a commotion in the hallway. Angry voices, the squeak of rubber-soled shoes on linoleum, and then Jamal burst into the room, his eyes wild with fear and worry. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I saw the love and anguish in his eyes, mirroring my own, and in that moment I understood. This man wasn't a threat to our family. He was family. "I'm sorry," I choked out. "I'm so sorry for everything." Jamal nodded, tears in his eyes. "She's going to be okay," he said, more to himself than to me. "She has to be." We sat there together, this unlikely pair, united in our love for Anna. And as the hours ticked by, I felt something shift inside me. A weight lifting, a door opening to a future I'd been too blind to see. Anna's recovery was slow and painful, but she fought with a strength that amazed me. And through it all, Jamal was there. He never left her side, his love and support unwavering. I watched them together, saw the way they lifted each other up, and I realized how wrong I'd been. One day, as Anna was doing her physical therapy, Jamal and I found ourselves alone in her hospital room. The silence stretched between us, years of hurt and mistrust creating an almost physical barrier. Finally, I spoke. "I owe you an apology, Jamal. Many apologies, in fact." He looked at me, his expression guarded. "Mr. Worthington Dash." "Please," I interrupted. "Call me Charles." A ghost of a smile flickered across his face. "Charles, then. You don't owe me anything. All I want is for Anna to be happy and healthy." "That's all I want, too," I said softly. "I see that now. I was so focused on protecting what I thought was important that I nearly destroyed the most precious thing in my life." I took a deep breath. "I know I have no right to ask this, but I'd like a chance to make things right. With both of you." Jamal studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "I think Anna would like that. And so would I." It wasn't an instant fix. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But slowly, day by day, we began to heal. I got to know Jamal, not as a threat to my family's legacy, but as the remarkable man he was. I saw his talent, his kindness, his unwavering devotion to Anna, and I realized that far from diminishing our family, he was enriching it in ways I'd never imagined. As Anna regained her strength, I made good on my promise to make amends. I used my connections to help promote Jamal's art, introducing him to gallery owners and collectors who could further his career. I worked with Anna to create a new division at the firm focused on arts law, allowing her to blend her passion for justice with her love of creativity. The day of their wedding was the proudest of my life. As I walked Anna down the aisle, I saw not just my daughter, but a strong, independent woman who had fought for her happiness. And when I placed her hand in Jamal's, I didn't see a threat to our family's future. I saw that future, bright and beautiful and full of possibilities I'd never dared to imagine. Now, years later, as I watch my grandchildren, a perfect blend of Anna and Jamal, playing in the garden of our family home, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. Gratitude for second chances, for the resilience of love, and for the wisdom that comes from admitting when you're wrong. I once thought I knew what it meant to protect my family's legacy. I thought it was about maintaining appearances, about wealth and status, and keeping to our kind. But I've learned that true legacy isn't about what you have. It's about who you love and how you love them. It's about growth, acceptance, and the courage to change. So I ask you, dear reader, what would you do to protect your family's legacy? And more importantly, what would you be willing to change? Because sometimes the greatest act of protection is letting go of our preconceptions and embracing a future we never knew we wanted. If my story has touched you, please share it. Let it be a reminder that it's never too late to change, to heal, to love. And remember, the most precious inheritance we can leave our children isn't money or status, but the courage to follow their hearts and the wisdom to recognize true love when they find it. Don't forget to follow for more stories of love, redemption, and the true meaning of family. And check out our exclusive playlist of similar tales that will warm your heart and challenge your perceptions. After all, every family has a story. What's yours?